Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. I have to tell you, I'm excited today. My guest is a longtime friend who lives far, far away, but he's visiting this summer, and we got to catch up a couple weeks ago. And we said, why don't we have him on this show? Because you know that Dreamleapers is all about inspiring people to access and activate their dreams. That's why I created this. I bring people on this show who have done that, who are doing that, who've done it on more in more than one way or more than one occasion. Because when you think about it, if you live long enough, usually you're manifesting more than one great idea in your life. And here is a brother who has done all of that. Let me tell you about him. He is Troy White. He is a full service lifestyle marketing specialist within the urban and multicultural millennial marketplaces. He'll explain to you what that means. He is currently living in Nairobi, Kenya, but he's from here. He's from Philly. He went to Howard just like me, and he is in the house now with WBAI. So welcome, Troy White.
Wow, it is so good to be here, Harriet. Thank you for having me. I'm a blessed cat to be on WBAI.
and Troy identifies himself as Troy Groovy White. I love that. What makes Troy groovy?
It's all about the groovy, baby.
That's it. That's it. So you know what, Troy? I want to talk about so many things, but what I really want to start with is energy. Because when I think about you, I think about a burst of positive energy. That's like your imprint that I think you leave on folk when they are in your company. And I want you to talk about accessing that joyful, playful energy that really does define you in many ways. When would you say you could tap into when you really connected to that energy?
Wow. I've done a gazillion freaking interviews, and that is the first time anyone has ever phrased it that way, Harriet. So, and I love that because I'm about energy. Mom, stay down here. I want you to hear the interview. I'm sorry.
All right.
I want my mama to listen to your interview.
That's good. That's good. So Troy, what I noticed about you from the first time I ever met you is it's all about energy. You are a ball of energy. That's what people are drawn to. Your energy, your enthusiasm. It's very playful. And I want to know, when did you first tap into that? When were you conscious of this energy that really is a huge part of your persona?
You know what's crazy, Harry? Out of the millions of interviews I've done, like this is the first time anyone's ever delved deeply into that. It basically comes, I was born this way. Like I get it from my mother. I watched her, my uncles, my aunts, like they're all, you know, we're just full of energy. And then as I got older, I realized when I was around like people who were negative and things like that, I realized it was so much easier to live like just feeling good than feeling negative. Like to me, it's like common sense. Like if you have a choice of feeling good and giving off good energy or feeling bad and giving off bad energy, that crap hurts. You know, when you give out bad, when people are mad and they're mad at someone, they feel like they're really like hurting the other person, but you're really not. You're hurting yourself, you know. And I realized that. So I was like, I prefer, even in bad situations, to give off good energy because it's so much better and it's so much easier to deal with that. And then people love, even negative people, even though they won't say it, they actually like good energy. You know, they won't give you love for it or anything, but when you walk away, they think about it. And you know, and that's what we should be doing. To me, it's much easier to live, to give off good, positive, great energy. You know, and then as a person, I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God, and I think that that's what He wants us to do. You know, to leave a good presence whenever you're around, even in bad situations. You know.
Well, and actually, so I do a lot of work with people on their state of being and the choices that we can make and do make. So what you're saying is completely in alignment with my beliefs. When we are in a good space, when we're in a good mood, we don't need any help. We just go with like we're in the flow of the universe and everything seems to be perfect. Even if it's hard, it's not
Yep.
hard. It's during those challenging times when we are always faced with a choice. But
Mhm.
sometimes for some people, it's really, really difficult to choose to find the light, to choose to be positive when the world seems to be falling in around us, or, you know, negative things occur, tragedies occur. I mean,
Right.
they're all the time. And
Hmm.
so when you, if you could pull out an example just for folks to
Hmm.
consider, something that may have happened in your life that was really tough,
Hmm.
how did you handle it?
Wow. I could get real deep.
Please do, please do.
uh, I could get real deep. I was going through some problems. This is like maybe 7, 8 years ago. Most challenging problem I had ever had. It was legal problems, business problems. And it brought me from, like, I was at my highest high, like doing extremely great, like just kicking behind. And then I went from here from 100 to 0, and I
Mm,
was at 0 for a couple of years because of these legal problems. And one day I was feeling really sorry for myself, and like really sorry and down. And I didn't believe in being like depressed because I'm always a happy guy. So I was like, depression is a state of mind. But I actually got to the point where literally I got depressed. And I was
yeah.
like, gosh, this is how people feel. Now I get it. I won't point fingers at other people anymore. But then God hit me and he was like, yo, you feeling sorry for yourself, aren't you? I was like, yeah. I was like, why me? Like, I'm a good cat. I'm a good husband. I'm a father. I work in my community. Like, I'm doing it. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. And he said to me, he's like, at a snap of my finger, do you know how many millions of people would trade your problems for
Mm.
theirs? And I was like, I was like, whoa, I am so sorry. Like, for even being down right now. Like, I'm blessed. No matter what I'm going through, I know I'm going to be okay because you got my back. So I'm good. And from that point on, I was like, no matter how hard things get, it's almost like when you're driving in the passenger seat and God's driving, and he might be driving 150 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. He might be cutting turns really hard, and you flying all over the car, but you're just supposed to ride. You ain't supposed to be asking questions. You ain't supposed to get mad. You just supposed to ride. And I realized that, like, you just supposed to ride and try to keep it as positive as possible. Because from that point on, I was like, you got my back. I'm good. I'm happy now. No matter what happens, I'm going to be good.
I love hearing that, and I'm going to challenge you a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and say, you know, one of the things that I learned early on in spiritual practice is that there are two wings to the bird: self effort and grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you put forth all kind of effort. So yeah, you're in the car riding, but God is not just saying sit back, chill, and I'm going to take care of you. You got
No.
to put in you got to put in the work,
Oh, you
right?
got to put in the work. Most definitely. Most definitely. 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. You know, what is it? Works without deeds or something like that. Um, but yeah, you got to put in that work.
You have to put in the work and you have to have focus. But I love that you have a positive attitude. And I hope as people are listening, they're paying attention because it really is a choice.
Right.
It is, we face choices every day, all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And while you mentioned that in your experience, you might have thought that depression is a choice. I actually think that for some people, depression is really an illness,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they need a different kind of support. And
Right.
even then, even when it is an illness, we can have a choice as to how we deal with it,
Right.
whatever comes to us. And I think in the space of this project that I created, Dreamleapers, I don't think it's possible for you to access a dream, let alone activate the dream, which is what this is all about. If you're stuck on negative, if
Right.
it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard, it's like the dream could be right in front of you, but you don't even see it, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So so one of the things that you have done in your career that a lot of people are beginning to pay attention to this space because next year is the 50th anniversary of hip hop, right?
Yes.
You built your career in early days in that space as hip hop was exploding
Right.
to the scene. How did you get involved in this cultural phenomenon that has ended up being internationally pervasive?
Wow. I started out as an intern at CBS Records, which eventually became Sony Music in 1985. And I was handling their college division while at Howard University, our great alma mater, the great university in the world, HU.
HU.
So started out there, and then after I graduated, they hired me in New York to be secondary marketing manager. And then 2 years later, they had me start Sony. In 1990, I started Sony's first rap division for Epic Records. And it was it was weird because I just remember meetings where cats were like, this ain't gonna be around too long. This is bad. We're not gonna put that much money into this. We're not gonna do that. No, you can't have the same budget as a rock group, for music videos or for touring. And I always had to fight like really hard to get the proper budgets. Luckily, I had two great bosses, Don Eason and Hank Caldwell, that always had my back and always, helped me out, making sure that the budgets got passed. But it literally felt like you were like on a raft and you're in a river and it's like going pretty slow, but you're kind of moving, and then it's getting a little faster. The water's getting a little faster and faster, and then through the 90s, it just became like you were in a wave, like a huge wave. You're going like 100 an hour, down the river, and everyone wants to be a part, so it was a phenomenon. And it's here to stay. Like it's 50 years, it'll be here another 50 years. It'll be here until the end of time.
The fact that it's 50 years is the part that blows my mind. Like, it just means that this, as you described, like it was a little wave. And I think it was at a crescendo point for me at the beginning of my career at Essence. And I worked with so many of the people from, the 80s and 90s who not only defined the music, but then it became the music, the fashion, the art, the interior design, the everything. I mean, it just has
the whole
been pervasive.
Influences everything from politics to brands, everything. Like it's everywhere. You hear the corniest people, mimicking our words, in the halls of the Senate. Like it's everywhere. You see it in commercials. They have nothing to do about hip hop or our people. It's permeated everywhere globally.
Troy, I interviewed Damon John recently, and he was talking about incredible businessman. He was talking about developing FUBU and how when LL Cool J was hired by Gap to do an ad, right, and the way Damon described it, LL didn't really like the way they were coming at him. They weren't as respectful as he wanted. And so he like that. Well, can I wear a cap? And he wore FUBU cap.
Yep.
And he
rapped a classic moment hip hop, like classic. And then he says for us by us.
Oh man.
Rap. And the Gap people don't even know what he's talking about. But we knew what he was talking about, which was beautiful.
And Damon described Gap spent $30 million on that ad.
Wow.
When the marketing people, none of them understood what had happened, that they had basically given for us, by us, FUBU, $30 million worth of advertising. They fired all those people and took the ad down after 3 months of running it. But then Damon explained that they put it back up because what people did was come into Gap looking for
Yep.
FUBU, and they ended up spending money there, and so it
Right.
benefited everyone. They ended up spending $60 million more on that ad. This is what
Wow.
Damon just described to me. And I mention it because you suggested something that we know to be true. The undervaluing of things that are created by people of color
Right.
is a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mistake. And it happened in hip hop up until people went, wait a minute,
Right.
there's something here. There is a there for real.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's something. Let me remind folks, you're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. I am so happy. My guest today is Troy Groovy White. I love it. He has spent many years working in the space of culture and marketing culture, starting his career in the space of music and hip hop and growing it from there. He is a brother who always is shining the light on good things. And that's why I thought it would be wonderful to talk to him today about what he's doing and also just his approach to the way he lives. Because we are in times now, Troy, where I've been doing a lot of work with people on dealing with transition and change and loss. There's a lot. We still have COVID, even though people act like it's not here. There's a lot of vulnerability in our world. And I think that's all the more reason why we need to claim the positive,
Right.
because it can help us to see more clearly through vulnerable times. And I feel like that's something that you do. Now, you worked for a bunch of years in hip hop directly, with in music and entertainment. And what was the pivot to change your career? Because it has changed over time.
Yeah. So, I also get my mom, the ability to kind of feel, and I'm not a fortune teller or anything like that. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow or next year or anything like that. But you can feel things. And in the mid 90s, this is about 95, 96, I was noticing that, there were white conglomerates that were buying up the black radio stations. So I was like, they're not going to really need us to go into black radio anymore, because it's going to be white program directors, white music directors, who are programming black stations and consultants. So, and then I was like, the record companies started merging, and the larger companies were buying up the smaller record labels and things of that nature. And I was like, yo, it's a shift here where they ain't gonna read us, soon, and then they started bringing in more bean counters into the music industry and less creatives. So I feel it, I could see that, and I was like, yo, if you can market a record, you can market anything. Like we were the forefront of marketing. There were no better marketers in the world than record company people. Like, because there were no rules. And if there were rules, we were taught to break, so we were taught to truly think creatively and out of the box, do things that no one has ever done before. So I was like, well, if you can do that, you can give me a rock and hot. You can give me some yogurt, I'll make it hot. And my first actually opportunity was with Dannon Yogurt. One of my boys was working at Dannon. I left Sony, started my own marketing company where I was consulting in the music industry for a bunch of different labels and artists. So then, thank you, Mama.
You're welcome.
So he was like, Troy, we want to get black people to eat more yogurt, more Dannon yogurt. And I was like, yo, I can make yogurt hot. So he gave me a test market. He gave me Harlem. And I put together I shrink wrapped some vehicles, some SUVs. I marketed it like I was marketing, a hot artist or some liquor. Shrink wrapped some vehicles, parked outside the bodegas, had beautiful women inside the bodegas, having people sample the yogurt, that nature. And we made it kind of hot. And then they realized they increased sales within Harlem. So then we were like, all right, cool. he was like, all right, let's try to do this in some other area. Then we did it like nationally, and it was huge.
Wow.
So then I went from there to Coke to EA Sports, Nike. Then I got into politics, and I did all Mayor Bloomberg's campaigns and Obama's campaigns and Hillary Clinton's campaigns. And
So wait, let's dig into that a little bit. What does that mean? What did you do? Everybody wants to know. What did you do for Obama? So come on, tell us. Cut through the rest. Tell us what you did for Obama.
Well, the coolest thing about the Obama is it's funny. This is when you had your mama around, you know, and then she grabs a picture.
I love it.
Show him the picture.
I have one of those. When he still had brown hair. Before,
Yeah, he's all
pre-White House.
But I did marketing for him and fundraising for him when he was running for Senate. So when nobody even knew what the hell it was, in New York, Philadelphia, and DC. And we raised a lot of money for him. And then he won. So when he won Senate, then we did fundraising for his Hope Fund that he had. So we did that nationally, and then worked on his campaign, presidential campaign, doing marketing.
So what's interesting about that,
mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of people who listen to WBAI are very interested in politics and dive in deep. Mm-hmm. And still, one thing we know is that Black people are not the best at showing up to the polls, at getting involved mm-hmm. in the political process. What kinds of things did you need to do in order to get folks to pay attention to Obama, especially if this is at his senatorial entry point, because not that many people knew him?
You know, it's funny. There are things that I suck at, but making things like interesting and hot and creative, I've been blessed to be able. It's like what I always say, that everyone has a superpower. I don't care what your situation is. God blessed you with something that you're really great at.
That's right.
So one of mine is my ability to make things hot. So, and I've been good at it for such a long time. Whoa.
That's there you go.
That people believe me. Like, they're like, okay, well, Troy, if you say I need to be here, I'm going to come, because I know I'm going to have a great time, and I'm going to have a great experience. From the time I get the invite to the time I get there to the time I leave, I'm going to have a great experience. And that's what I love, creating great experiences. So I've been able to do that since college. So it was kind of easy. It was first, and I teased some of my friends who ended up like contributing tons of money to his campaign when I was trying to get them to come see him when he was running for Senate, especially in New York and Philly. And they were like, yo, what's his name again, bro? Like, yo, he might win Cabrini Green, but he ain't going to win the rest of Illinois with a name like that. You know?
Isn't that, so that was something that was so fascinating about Barack Obama, that we not only was he Black, but he has this absolutely African name mm-hmm. that we know our country, an African name is not necessarily what's going to get you to the next place. Right. And also another thing that's true, again, back to the political process early on, people, Black people in particular, pay attention to the national elections, to the presidential election, but not often to those smaller statewide and citywide elections. I just recently interviewed a woman who runs an organization called All In Together that is focused on getting women involved in the political process. And she talks about the importance of being involved from the school board, you know, from the city council, paying attention in that way. And so what you're describing is put some heat around it, and folks are going to pay attention, and maybe that's a way to get them to mm-hmm. even care about what the issues are, right?
Yes. I think we're becoming even more active on the lower levels of elections than we've ever been, because we're starting to realize the importance of local elections and your local, you know, congressman and senator and governor, things of that nature. Your local school board. So I'm happy about that. I feel
Mhm.
us as a people are becoming more active that way, and not just on the national.
Mhm. So, what happened for you as a result of working on these campaigns of these, highest political figures? What happened for you in your work? Did that affect your work in any way?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, the cool thing is that I was a political science minor at Howard, so I've always loved politics. And to me, I was like, when I first my first campaign was Mayor Bloomberg's campaign when he ran for New York. That was the first campaign I worked on, and literally, I was like, I want to come in and I want to market you like you're a hot liquor or a hot pair of sneakers or a hot art, and he got it because I was like, people kind of look at politics like, oh, it's different. You can't do this. No. You just like you wanted, well, at least back in the day, you wanted someone to leave their house and walk into the store and buy your record. Politics is the same thing. You wanted someone to leave their house, and walk into a poll and vote for you. It's the same thing. It's going to a liquor store and buying, a new bottle of liquor. Like, it's the same thing. You're getting someone to do something that you want them to do. So I approached politics that, like, it's not politics, it's a brand. And you need as many people as possible to like your brand.
That's
You
true.
need to make your brand as hot as possible. And it needs to be as warm as possible. And you need to be able to talk to people. So even when we were doing like Mayor Bloomberg in Harlem, we changed all the flyers, all the information, everything to make it hot in the African American and Hispanic. You know, we didn't go with the same messaging as they were doing downtown and in Queens and other places. You know,
Well,
uh,
what we call targeted marketing, that it
ex-
was targeted to a
yep,
particular
mm,
to really acknowledge and celebrate that community
yeah,
as opposed to just making the general market.
yeah,
Mhm.
you know,
And and so let's talk for a moment about branding in general, because most people listening have had a conversation or thought about this, because now everybody's talking about personal branding.
mhm,
Who am I and how do I define myself so that others will gravitate toward me? Like you say, is like bringing the heat.
mhm.
And I think a lot of people personally struggle with, well, how do I do that? I'm just random person, but I want to establish the brand of me too. What would you say to people who are trying to figure that out?
You have to find your niche. Like you have to do you. Like I can't. I was talking to my mom today and her friend about one summer, and I was a bank teller. I was the worst bank teller in the history of bank tellers. But that was not me. That's not my niche. My mind doesn't work that way. It's not in my super. It's not in my blessing. So I would tell anyone, like, try to work within your blessing. So whatever you're really good at, like, that you can do with your eyes closed, you can do without thinking, and you can do for 48, 72 hours straight and not even complain because you enjoy it. That's where you work, you put your branding at. That's where you put your energy at. That's where you make yourself known. Don't try to do things outside your lane, because then it's just so much harder. Like, you do what you do best, Harriet. Like, this is you. You can do this all day, PR and marketing stuff. This is what I do. Don't stick me behind a bank teller. Like, I can't do that. Don't. I'm not an accountant.
But
I'm
you know what,
not.
Troy? I hear you and I'm with you on this. And I know a lot of people are afraid. Well,
Mhm,
if I step into what my heart tells me to do, if I step into what I think I'm good at, but maybe it's not a thing that necessarily makes money, if I step all the way into that, am I going to lose my house, lose my,
mhm.
whatever it is? How can I be certain that if I make this choice to be in alignment with what my heart is telling me to do, that I'm going to survive and thrive?
Well, you have to be sensible about it. It's something my father was saying. Like, you just got to be sensible. You can't. just say, freak it, I'm just going to do this and then leave. And then now you can't pay your bills or anything. So you
Right.
got to be sensible about it. But to the younger folks, and who have that opportunity, that might have, the ability, or to the old folks that might still have the ability to, put time into their dream and into their superpower, just be sensible about it, but do it. Because my whole thing is, you never know. Like, it might not work. All right, cool. At least you freaking tried, But
I could not agree with you more. And wait, this is going to be a cliffhanger because I want to remind folks of where we are. But in a second, I'm going to tell you about Tyler Perry, because he said almost exactly what you just said. But let me remind folks, you are listening to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. We are just having the best conversation with Troy White. Here's what I want folks to know, context. Everybody listening, if you already have been listening to WBAI, you know this is listener-sponsored radio. All those fabulous brands Troy was talking about, they don't get to advertise here because we don't accept advertising. Literally, it's the people listening who make it possible for us to stay on the air. That, just when you think about that it is you, those of you listening right now, the power of you, the dollars of yours that you give to this radio station are what power it, not a giant brand who can throw big money or small money at the radio station. That makes it possible for us to say and do whatever we want. We are a 62-year-old progressive radio station here in New York City. We get to say what we want, the real truth, because nobody's holding our purse strings. And that means we need you to continue to give as generously as you can to ensure that we can stay on the air. This is my 4th year doing the show. I'm so grateful. And I want to have 4 more years and more after that. So please call us at 212-209-2950 and give whatever you can. You can become what's called a BAI buddy, where you give once a month. Every time you have to pay that electric bill, that phone bill, that's a once a month nut. Your mortgage, your rent, you can help us pay those bills by becoming a BAI buddy and making a monthly donation, or you can make a single donation, whatever your heart tells you to do. But call us right now, 212-209-2950. And we just appreciate whatever your heart tells you that you want to give to us, to WBAI right now. And if you want to wait until this broadcast is over and then call, it's okay. I know you don't want to miss this conversation with Troy. Just don't forget, 212-209-2950. Okay, so Troy, this is another. Yes.
And to you guys that love Harry, love WBAI, and people in the know, we were just talking about the anniversary of hip hop. BAI played a very intricate role in hip hop during the late 80s and during the 90s. When they weren't actually playing hip hop on BLS, Kiss, and Hot 97 wasn't even around.
That's right.
BAI was very important in regards to hip hop back then. So I've always had, BAI in my heart, because I know what they've been doing, what you guys have been doing for a very long time.
Thank you. It's amazing. My husband is one. He had been listening to BAI way before me. There are lots of health programs, and he dives way deep into holistic healthcare. And whenever we would be in the car, he was listening to BAI. When I told him I'm going to have a radio show on BAI, he's like, "Go on, girl." So, and that's 4 years and counting. So 212-209-2950. Go ahead.
Going on, talking about before, and this is something in here just hit me in my head. She said something to me before I went to college. She said, "Troy, I want you to always experience your dreams. I never want you to sit back and wonder what would have happened if." Like,
yes.
Said that to me. I was like, "Got you, Mom." And from that point on, I've always done what I wanted to do. Even if everyone was telling me to go right, I still went left, because I felt in my essence, in my soul, in my body, even though everyone's saying going right, I feel like going left. So I'm going left, because I never want to say to myself when I get older, "Damn, I wonder what would happen if." And even when I've gone left and it was wrong, didn't work out, I'm cool with it, because it was my decision. and you got to live with your decisions, and I'm cool with that as a learner.
That is so important. And, you know, you're bringing up a couple of things that I want to highlight. Number one, you keep talking about your mama. I talk about my mama too. She's 92 years old, and we're so grateful for her. And, you know, all the things that our mothers do to support us. The fact that she gave you the blessing to go left means a lot. There's some families, for lots of reasons, you know, because of struggle. No, get that good government job, get that good whatever that job is, and not disparaging any of that. All those jobs are important, but for the person who doesn't gravitate toward that, to have a parent to say you be you is a huge blessing. And so, thank God your mother supported you in that, so that you didn't feel you were going against the family when you made some choices. That brings me to what I wanted to mention to you, which is Tyler Perry. I had the great good fortune to interview him for the cover story of AARP, the magazine that's out right now. He's on the cover. Nice. And it's rare that there are Black folks on the cover of that magazine, but they have 38 million subscribers. So it's crazy how many folks get this magazine. What he said from the moment we started talking to the end was how grateful he was for his mother, his aunties, and the women in his community, you know, that in his tight community, because they bolstered him, they guided him, they corrected him, and they supported him no matter what. And that's what you're describing. That's the experience I've had. When you have a mother who is supporting you like that, that rock is so strong, even when bad things happen. And he had a lot of bad things happen in his life, and still he's a billionaire, which is just, you know, hello, he's a billionaire. That part. But the other thing, there are many things he said, but another thing that you reminded me of just now, he talked about pursuing your dream. And again, back to Dreamleapers. He said for him, because I asked him about advice for other people who have dreams and are looking to pursue their dreams. And he said, look, I can't tell anybody else what to do, but all I can tell you is, for me, I had one dream and I put everything into that dream. That was his first play. He put so much into that, he ended up being homeless. He said, I'm not recommending that you do something to make yourself homeless, but he said there was nothing else in him except for that, and he had to make it work.
Right.
And that relentlessness, that thing that drives you where you can't sleep, you have to do it. When you have that, you have to do it.
Yep.
And you may not end up being a billionaire, but your heart will be happy. Your family will probably be happier. Like, your world will be happier if you pursue that dream. So for you, because there have been multiple dreams. So I want to go to where you are now, because you are living in the motherland. You are living in Nairobi, Kenya. Hey, where Barack Obama's daddy's from, right?
Yes. Nice segue.
Yeah. So you are there. How did you get there, and what are you doing there?
So it was literally 8 years ago. My ex-wife got a really dope job opportunity for Africa, and we had never been to the continent. We didn't know anybody there. We didn't even know. You couldn't even have asked me where Kenya was, and I automatically do it on the continent. Like, I just didn't know. I was the ignorant American, as 99% of us are.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing about both of us is that we're very open-minded and we love opportunity. So I was like, this would be dope. I can work. You could put me in Alaska and I'll make snowballs hot. Like, that's just where so no matter where I go, I'm going to be okay. We had two kids, two blessed kids who were really open-minded like us, and very adjustable and adaptable. So our son was 12 at the time. Our daughter was like 9. So we moved from Harlem to Nairobi, Kenya, and it was only supposed to be her 3-year. She was going to do a 3-year term there, and then I've been there for 8 years now.
Wow.
So
You stayed.
to me, I've lived in London, I've lived all around the States, I've been blessed to travel the world. Nairobi, Kenya is the best place in the world to live.
What makes it so great?
The quality of life is just unbelievable. The opportunities. You know how here you feel like, yeah, I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to bust this ceiling, and then I'm going to bust that ceiling, and then I got to bust this ceiling, and it's always a ceiling.
Right.
There, it's really cool to live where there are no ceilings. Like, there are none. And to have that freedom, to be able to wake up every morning like and feel that free, where you can just do anything you want to do and make it happen, it was, not to say I look that good, but you know, I look way better now than I did 10 years ago. And that's because when I got there, it was like an adrenaline shot to my heart, to my soul, to my body, where I was just like, like, wow, I like this. Like, I feel new again. I feel young. I feel vibrant. Like my creative mind started like just working again. And it was just beautiful. The people are great. Like, everyone speaks English, so you never go anywhere and there's like a language barrier. Like, I've never in 8 years ran into anyone that doesn't speak English. You know, Swahili,
which is pretty unusual.
Yeah, Swahili is their main language, but everyone speaks it. Shoot, they speak better English than we do. The Brits colonized them back in the day. So it's just a beautiful place. And I call it African Light, meaning as an expat, when you land there, it's a really easy city to, adjust to, because everything works there. The electricity's on all the time. Shoot, their cell phones, Safaricom is better than, I've been using AT&T since I've been back, and it's buffering this and that. I'm like, yo, my phone never buffers in Nairobi. Like, never. My phone, my calls never, disconnected. Since I've been here, I've been like, yo, that's $1 trillion company. Why is this?
I hope they're listening up right now, yo.
But
so
there.
Now you are
hot bars, hot clubs, hot hotels. Like, you feel like you're in Europe or the States in regards to having the quality of life, but then you still get that good African vibe and energy, and that good the Kenyan, vibe, which is beautiful, and I love it.
So the energy sounds amazing. The fact that it's comfortable, is that counts for so much, because many people who've gone to different parts of the continent and made it home and love it have talked about it being a little bit bumpy, because there might be language barriers or really a lot of basic infrastructure barriers. So you're saying that might even be better than here. You have gotten involved in marketing and in the work that you were doing in the States, and I'm wondering, because you come out of such a results driven culture,
right?
How has that energy worked in now being a part of, I think, at least 2 companies, right, in Kenya that you're working with? How is that working?
I say this since I've been back, like, to anyone. I don't care if you're a dentist, if you have a barbershop, have a toothpaste line. I don't care what you do, you can do it there. Like, it's just, in all the ideas that I create for my brands there, a lot of them, and some of the hottest things that I've done there, literally things that I've done here in the 90s. I did a huge Coke campaign there that they ended up using across the continent of Africa. And it was basically based off of something they did in the early 90s in New York and in the Hamptons. What works here, works there. You just got to tweak it a little bit and Kenyanize it. But the same creative, cool ideas still work. And there's still lots of opportunities there, where here there might be a couple million people doing the same thing that you're trying to do
Mm.
There, it's not going to be that many people. It's not, the competition won't be as much because it's not as many people.
Right.
So if you come with something and you come, and I always say this too to us, when you come there, come humble, and you don't come with that American, like, yo, I'm American and this and this, and back home we do it this way and that way, and why y'all doing this, and why you eating this way, and why is this, and when you come, you shouldn't come that way. You come humble, like you go anywhere else, like your mama and daddy taught you when you walk in somebody's house. It is what it is. Don't be asking no questions.
Mm.
You come humble, you get love there, and people will help you with whatever you're trying to do. But don't come there thinking that you're all known, better, and all that kind of stuff. Come in and you're coming with your experience, and you want to merge your experiences with their lifestyle, and then keep it moving.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing. Hey guys, you're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. I love that the everywhere online is WBAI.org, especially now because Troy's people over in Nairobi can check out this interview too.
Yes.
This goes everywhere. It's not just in New York. It is globally available thanks to the internet, and also thanks to every one of you who's listening. You are the lifeblood of WBAI. I just, as much as I've worked in the space of creating image and working with advertisers and working with people on branding, all those different things that, many touch points with you too, Troy, in terms of the work that we've done, the idea that there could be a media outlet that doesn't use any of that is pretty outstanding to me, that it could exist, that WBAI lived through COVID. At 62 years old, lived through a whole bunch of things that have been a tremendous challenge. And I want to tell you that during the darker years of, and I'll just say 45's reign, WBAI was so important because when there was a whole lot of, fake truth or whatever he called it, the real truth was right here. And it's because we are not beholden to anybody except for the community of people who are our listeners. And so everybody listening, please make a donation to WBAI today, 212-209-2950. You could also go online and give to the numeral 2, WBAI.org. We need you. We appreciate you. Hey, Troy, it's fantastic. Don't you want more folks like him to come on the air? You can make sure it's so by contributing to our beloved radio station right now. So, Troy, I want to, in the few minutes that we have left, I want to get a sense, for people who haven't traveled much. You have chosen to live in another country across the world. Many people talk about moving to the motherland, and many people who say they want to do that go somewhere on the continent of Africa and have a hard time. They don't feel like they fit in. It's tough. You just described being humble and working with folks is the way, rather than coming in as imperial American, trying to tell people what to do. But, what advice in general would you give to people who want to explore the world and maybe haven't done it yet, but maybe their time is approaching? What advice do you have for them?
Well, first of all, as Americans, we tend to, especially African Americans, we always tend to go to a European country and spend our money, or go to the Caribbean, or somewhere in Mexico. That's literally our limits of travel. Like, the rest of the world doesn't exist.
Right.
The rest of the Black world doesn't exist. And I really don't blame us for that, because we've been programmed to believe that. We've been programmed. We have the same type of ignorant thoughts about Africa as a lot of white people, because we've been programmed that way. They don't want us to see the positive side of that continent. And I if anyone follows me on Instagram or any of my social media, I will always show the hot and sexy side. I will never show when I'm in the slums, whenever I'm doing something that people would expect, to be in Kenya. I never show that stuff, you know, because there's enough of that. 99% of the things you see that are coming out of that continent are negative. I always say one negative thing about the continent is that it's horrible at marketing itself.
True.
And it allows the European world to market it. And of course, the European world wants to keep us from there. So they're going to make sure that we think that, oh my gosh, they're living in trees and, you know, they don't have internet and you don't want to go there. Go to London, go to Paris, go to Greece, you know, spend your money there. And the cool thing I love about like what's going on now is one of the things you mentioned, 45. I always say that things that he did really well. And I know everyone's like, oh,
no, he did a lot well, but go ahead. What are you talking about?
He did two things to me really well. And he didn't do it on purpose. This is by he don't do nothing on purpose. Black people got slapped so hard, not just by him, but by his energy. Because the country takes on the president's energy.
That's true.
If the president is negative, now all the, you know, the closet racists and stuff like that came out the closet. They felt comfortable, you know. So millions of black people got slapped by people that they thought were cool, you know, that they had known for 20, 30 years. Their family had traveled together and all that kind of stuff. They're going to drink water from the same water cooler for 20 years at the same company. You know, they thought some of these people were really cool, but then when 45 got in, now all of a sudden they started flexing a little bit and saying and asking dumb questions, you know. So he made black people realize, yo, maybe we need to start thinking a different way. Maybe we need to start supporting our own first, because we only got what we got. Like, if we don't have each other, then we don't have anything. So if you notice, black businesses started really taking off when he got in there, and after he's gotten in there. Black college enrollments have been like roof, you know, because people are like, yo, why am I going to spend $50,000 a year to send my kids somewhere where they're going to get treated, you know, like a second-class citizen, you know? And people are starting to travel to Africa now more than ever. Like, I love the President of Ghana. He's a smart cat. Over the last 5 years, Ghana's brought in over $2.5 billion from African Americans traveling to Ghana.
Right.
Like, that's unheard of, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, when he created that reunion, when his country created that reunion where all Africans of the diaspora were to come back, that was right before COVID, right?
Yeah. Like it's in, and I love the fact, like, I'm getting questions from people who laughed at me, you know, for moving to Kenya. Like, yo, really? Like, you know, now they're like, yo, tell me some more about this Kenya stuff. Like, tell me some more about it. You know,
it's interesting. Like Malcolm X said, every black man should have a passport in case you got to get out of the country quick. But, which is still a fair point. But, you know, from a visionary perspective, a different kind of visionary perspective, what you're describing, it is explore, you know, go, learn, figure out the impact and the resonance that you can have in other parts of the world. So what are your social handles so people can follow you?
So the one that I use the most is Instagram. So anyone can follow me at Troy _ Philly, PHILLY _white. So that's Troy _ Philly, PHILLY _WHITE.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for bringing all this joy and light and potential.
Oh, Harriette.
we need all of it, all that great energy. What we didn't talk about was the last time I saw Troy was so I live in Harlem. And by the way, on Saturday, I'm getting this incredible honor from an organization called From Harlem to the Hamptons.
Oh, beautiful.
And they're honoring me and two other people who are longtime residents in Sag Harbor. Nice. You know, I call this my happy place. And Troy was with me in my happy place, eating some good food.
Girl, you can cook.
And folks who know me are like, when did she learn how to cook? And it's really when my daughter was born and she's about to go to college. So I haven't been cooking that long, but I know how to throw down now.
My mama wants to say hi to you. Come here, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
This is my 75-year-old mama. Look how
Hello. Oh, it's wonderful to meet you. We love your son, and he's been giving all this great love and wisdom to my listeners. So thank you. Lovely to meet you, dear.
All right.
Love you, Harriette.
I love you back. Thank you so much.
And blessings to all your supporters out there. Hit me on my DM on IG if you're interested in coming to Kenya. I'll lay it out for you.
All right. That sounds great. Thank you. And to everyone here at WBAI, I know you feel good. My cup feels good. It is overflowing. I hope yours is too. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.